Okay, so I've done some work on this um, and added some detail. I'm gonna, well, I said I wasn't gonna talk too much, but that's just my MO. I'm a teacher, and this is the way I used to teach in my classrooms. Painting, giving instructions, doing the history, um, also kind of giving a firsthand knowledge of something. Um, Now, this is probably what I left off in part one, and you can see it has a little bit of a darker hue, and I'll zoom in a bit. Did some more work to this area here. Um, Still haven't come into this area. Now, this is going to be kind of, I was talking about the roundness, but I'm going to put like a layers on here. So I don't want it too bold and really like it's popping out. So I just wanted it just to have a slight curvature from this to this. But I'm going to show how I did this part. Okay, so like I said before, this is all about layers. And I'm just going all over because the rocks were not all uniform like the bricks that you see on your house or any kind of structure that's in modern times. So what I'm doing is going over. Now you can see in some of these things I have a little bit of a shadow, and I'll work that a little bit more too. So what's happening is I'm just doing random patterns. I have first-hand knowledge, which is always the best kind of history or information you can have. I could tell you exactly what's going on here. So now this is a giant team effort. This giant part up here on the actual sculpture, we actually did it in sections in the parking lot. So in other words, we did something and it was like ship ribs, and we were putting layers over a ship rib. And then when we finished that, we would bring it into the museum and then go to another section and bring it in because it was so large. But I have to kind of say something I've never really said before, but since this thing doesn't exist anymore, I think it's not going to affect anything. Now, this was totally by accident. It wasn't planned. It was just something that happened. And there's like a piece of wood. Actually, it's plaster. But in that little thing that's over these three bricks and that wood piece, we made a mold. Now, like I said, it wasn't planned, but what happened is when we made a latex mold of that little section, it actually pulled some of the fibers off the wood. And then when we made the plaster mold, it actually transferred the little fibers into the actual piece that's on the wall. So yeah, it was unintentional, but it really helped with the illusion of realism because it was actually wood fibers that were on there. Okay, so now another thing I have to do is explain that this whole thing was made by a 4x4 sheet, which means this whole thing, when I'm doing like a tour, or when I was doing a tour with people from outside or my friends, I would explain, okay, see this rock right here, it's the same rock over here, it's the same rock over here, it's flipped upside down over here, has a little bit of a tint over here, but it's so vast you can't really tell when you're looking at this gigantic thing. But when I'm painting right now, it's really strange because I'm painting it, and as I'm painting, it's setting my memory back to when I did this, 27 years ago or more. And I remember because we had to make our own rocks. That one 4x4 didn't cover everything. So the rocks around here and some of them in the outskirts or some that were had a hole, we had to make our own rugs and tint them so they matched up with all the other ones. And I remember we actually had to chisel the plaster so it had those little divots in it to make it look like the real ones. So when I'm doing this, I'm actually thinking and actually going back in time to think about all the things that happen. A little bit more. Let me see if it's kind of covering this. Okay, it's not. Okay, so this thing right here, this is going to go all the way down the floor. And I'm going to do, and I kind of, just so you could understand why it's in an angle. So I made these little dots following the angle. So you can see there's a different angle on the top and one in here. So I'm following the pattern. The same way I would do dinosaur skin. I would follow the curvature of something or going around the leg, and I would make these little lines following that. So as long as I followed the lines of going around something or the belly coming around this way, I can make the scales on a dinosaur the same exact way. So the techniques I'm showing people is something I use all the time. Now, because this is something that's really personal to me, I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Now, if you look at some of these, they have like a little shadow here. And that shadow, and you can see I'm just kind of tapping it. As I'm tapping it, Senna, no. I'm giving it more form. So I might need to go back in there and redo some of these bricks with just little tapping so that it gives it more volume. Of course, this is not the traditional way of doing watercolors, but if you're a scientific illustrator or a museum person, you need to do detailed stuff, and that's just a requirement. But it also helps with the realism, or not actually realism, because if you blow this up, it looks really abstract. But it helps with the illusion. I'll just go with illusion of a rock face. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm spending hours or days on some of this. When I'm doing this, I'm also remembering it took years. I did other things in this Native American hall, but just looking at this, I know it took like over a year and a half from the beginning to the finished product. So I'm kind of just reliving this project in my own way. Now I'll change out the colors if I need to. And you can see I'm just dabbing it, which gives the bricks a little bit more form. I'll add some more shadows. I know I didn't want to go too long on this, but I wanted to give you some information, and like I'm going to put in a little video, like an insert. So I'm giving you fair warning, because I did say if you didn't like what I'm talking about, fast forward or put on mute. But I did speak of myself and some other people working on the mammoths in the La Brea tar pit. And so I just wanted to share a picture of that, of me when I was young with my red shoes. And the video insert explains what I'm talking about right now. And you can see it's taking form a little bit more than this side. And it's just, as you can see, it's just adding what's, in some sense, it's just a minor thing just adding little dots to these bricks. But it does make it, in my eyes, a little bit more realistic. Seeing those patterns of the bricks separate each other from each other. I don't even know if that's a word. I'll have to probably delete that because that's just foolish. Or maybe I'll just leave it in because that's the way I would teach and make a mistake. So that's just the way I would speak. And this is not a perfect lecture. I just try to give information. Hopefully you can see this part versus this part over here. And that's the way this whole bottom part is going to be taken care of. And like I often said, I'll be working on this. It'll always be 80 or 90% of what people see, because I will always constantly go back and see things that I need to change, alter a little bit. But anyway, so it's turning out better than I thought, actually. I really like this kind of rock formation stuff in here. So I'll add some more of these shadows just to make the separation. And you can see they're really basic on this side. And then all of a sudden, when I put those dots, they're just a slight shadow. So they're not so overpowering as that. It just makes more sense to me. Anyway, so I'm going to call this one. And hopefully you enjoyed my lecture. If not, that's okay. I won't be offended. Just kind of consider yourself one of my students in my classroom. They had to spend a whole semester of me teaching them how to paint and lecture about trivial stuff. Actually, there's one little thing in the video about the first murder and trying to disguise the body and dumping it into the tar pits 10,000 years ago. Anyway, so that's little things that no one would ever know about unless you researched it to the nth degree. Or, yeah, anyway. Some people may know about that. I don't know. But this is the way it's going to happen all the way down. So I'm going to stop there. And as I have often said, thank you. Be careful out there because it's kind of crazy out there lately. See ya. Okay, so I guess I'm going to break my promise. I promise not to talk too much on this, but it's just the way I teach. It's random. Anyway, in the first one, I kind of spoke about, oops, that was kind of quick, about being on the back of the mammoth, repairing it. So, yep, that's me with my red shoes. I'm just going to let this play through. It's just going to repeat. So, yeah, this is some other models I made for the aquarium. But just a little trivia. A lot of people probably don't know some of these facts, but the first recorded was in the La Brea tar pits. They found a skull of a young woman, probably in her 20s, and she had her head bashed in. It was about 10,000 years ago. So I'm just going to play through these. Sorry. What I didn't realize is I could have been a fossil if I would have slipped off that mammoth, which quite possibly could have happened. Would have been maybe not being able to take it out of the tar, and maybe they would have found me 10,000 years later. But anyway, so I just wanted to throw a little trivia in there. So that's my baby girl, Senna. She's a year old. That's the girl that never leaves my side. Cody, which is a Siberian, gets to stand on my box and look out the windows, check out the neighborhood. Cody, the Siberian, doesn't really, he's old, been around for a long time. She doesn't care. You know, she comes up when she knows there's food up here or it's time for for dinner. She lets me know, but it's mainly just, Dad, I'm here, and you know why I'm here. It's time to feed me. Get up, get me something to eat. I'm getting closer to finish. Of course, they'll never finish. They'll always stay 90%, because no matter what you see here, I will continue to work. And I'm just going to do a slow movement down. Hopefully you can see some of the differences. Added some more shadows in here. I'll do a close-up in a minute. Some shadow in the wood part. So this is down here. I'm going to come down a little bit more. So this down here is okay, but I still need to do some cracks and keep on looking. I like what's happening here in the camera. It looks really bright, but it is a bit darker. Matter of fact, everything in here is brighter than it really is. So anyway, so I'm gonna zoom in. And as you can see on this right here and the rocks, this is not near finished. All this area, and most of the rocks are not finished. Constantly doing some work, adding more, but it's just a long process, and I'll keep on going until it looks right to me. But then again, this is how it starts. A little bit of a shadow, then the dots, and then it'll be layers on layers. Just keep building up the bricks till they look right to me. Anyway, so that's it. Hello, I'm Steve Melendrez, a model maker, illustrator, scientific illustrator, sculptor, design after history museum in Los Angeles. Done a lot of different things, but I'm going to be doing watercolor demonstrations of the techniques I've developed over the years, and it's going to go from a lot of different directions. And also I'm going to be doing videos, I call them video posters for my daughter. So a lot of stuff that I can leave to my daughter about her crazy dad. So I'm taking a lot of different directions, but mainly three. So anyway, that's my introduction that I'm going to attach to everything I'm doing now, so I don't have to repeat this.